So when I got to Chile, to Vina del Mar, before my time, so I served from 2006 to 2008, and there were a lot of baptisms that happened kind of in the 5 to 10 years before me, and not a lot of retention that happened during that time as well. And so kind of towards the beginning / middle of my mission, we really started to focus, in addition to converting, obviously, to going to find some of the less active members. We'd have wards that would be 400, 500, 600 people. You know, the list would be that big, and a dozen, 20, 25 would show up to church on Sundays. And so my first ward in El Melon, we met in a tiny remodeled home, and we had, I think, 8 to 10 people every Sunday. A couple of families that would always come, and then an occasional person that wanted to come back or was visiting or something like that. And I felt like, you know, that fluctuated a little bit throughout the region and in the area where I served, but that was that seemed kind of like the culture there, is that there were a lot of people who were baptized, but not a lot of people who continued to go faithfully. And so a lot of time was spent helping some of those recent converts remember why they got baptized, and helping some of those wards, especially with the priesthood activity, grow back into where they could be a full functioning ward rather than a branch or any of those kinds of things. A lot of Catholics, we ran into a lot of Catholics. I think down in South America that's kind of just how it is, but definitely found a lot of Catholic folks down there. And a lot of very active practicing Catholics, you know, some that weren't, that just said they were Catholic because they didn't really want to talk to us and they were fine with how they were. But it was cool to see that you know, the way that they invested in their faith, even though it was different, it was cool to see that that God meant something to them, and that they were still religious and faithful people, even if they weren't members of our faith. But I would definitely say, in terms of the LDS culture, it was a lot of, I mean, we had lots of baptisms and whatnot, and that's fine, but it was a lot of reactivating, and then on the other side, ran into a lot of Catholic folks. I had amazing companions on my mission. I loved all of them and got along with all of them, and some more than others, but I feel really blessed in that I really had great companions that I got along with really well. And one thing in terms of wishing, some stuff that I wish I knew before I went out, or if I could go back and do it again, I wish early on in my mission I would have understood the power of working with members. I kind of got trained by with the mentality that you just needed to go out in the street and you needed to knock doors, and if you did it long enough and put your shoulder to the wheel, that you'd find someone. And that happened sometimes, and it also didn't happen sometimes. And so for a lot of my mission, because that was the way I kind of, my first introduction to missionary work was, I remember pounding doors and being so frustrated, like, oh, we've already seen the Mormon missionaries, or, oh, we don't want to talk to you, or, oh, we're already members, or whatever. And I had a companion, kind of, not my first companion, but my second, that kind of helped me understand and see that, you know, when you work with members, people who already have testimonies of what you're talking about, and that have an active interest in what you're doing, and you show that to people. Look, these are the kinds of awesome people we have in our congregations and whatnot. Then it's way easier. It's way easier to get missionary work done. And I wish I would have understood that. Like I said, I got an introduction with that second companion and other things throughout the mission. But if I could go back and do it again, I would have, earlier on in my mission, worked more closely with members, because we're all missionaries. We all are trying to be examples and live the gospel in our own ways. And so when you can kind of create that team that helps you do what you're trying to do, it's way easier. And, you know, especially being a little blonde in this different culture, I didn't really fit in that way. And so finding people in the area and in the culture that believed these things that we were teaching, showing that to these investigators, it was amazing. And so definitely wish I would have worked with more members at the beginning, and I think I eventually figured that out, and the last part of my mission was probably more successful. I mean, it's hard to say what's successful and not, but it felt like I was doing more good because I was able to work with more members. So I served from 2006 to 2008 in the Chile Vina del Mar mission. My first area was El Melon, and that also comprised of a little city called Nogales. After that, I was there for 6 months. Then I moved to another area for one transfer, and that was called Coquimbo, which was in the northernmost part of my mission. And then I transferred to another place called La Serena for 6 months as well. Such beautiful places. As I'm saying these, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love all these places. After La Serena, I went to, I believe, a place called Achupayas. Right? Yeah. A place called Achupayas. After that, I went and I served in the main city of Viña del Mar. Nope. Right before that, I served in Quilpué. Then I went to Viña del Mar. After Viña, I went to... I'm getting all mixed up. 10 years ago. Man. Let me back it up. Served in La Serena. After La Serena, I moved to Quilpué. After Quilpué, I moved to Viña del Mar, the main city. After Viña del Mar, I moved to Achupayas. And then after Achupayas, I spent the last few weeks back in Viña del Mar because it was kind of a weird transfer thing where I was leaving in the middle of a transfer. But yeah,